Hi, and welcome to the Gnostic Rebellion. Today we're speaking with Stephen Martin, author of the book A New Theory of Human Life and Existence, where he presents a personal exploration of consciousness, reality, and the nature of existence, drawing on various philosophical, scientific, and spiritual perspectives. We'll introduce him in a moment, but first, if you look at the description below this video, you'll find a donate link that not only supports this program, but the work of maintaining our historic building and congregation. We're the first fully owned and operating Gnostic church on the continents of the Americas, and your donations are tax deductible. While you do that, we'll extend this blessing. May wisdom and divine providence increase the unique genius of our congregation and bring us to health, wealth, and increase of days. And so, again, we're here with Stephen Martin today, a successful ad executive and three-time winner of the Writer's Digest Book Award, twice for novels and once for nonfiction. He's also a member of the Rosicrucian Order. Would that be AMORC, AMORC?
Yeah, that's the abbreviation. Yeah.
Okay. And they're dedicated to exploring the mystical concepts and nature of reality. So, Stephen, welcome to the Gnostic Revolution.
Well, thank you for having me here. I'm looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, I am too, actually. I wish we were a much longer program for you, or maybe we'll get you back again at some point because I've got so much that I'd love to talk about, but we're not going to get to it so quickly. But I guess first, I'm really interested in how your Rosicrucianism influenced your professional life. How did your Rosicrucianism contribute to your career success?
Well, let me first say that I became a Rosicrucian because of I had a near-death experience. I was not brought up in a religious family. I was a scientific materialist. I believed what I learned in school, and when I found myself outside of my body, looking down at it, I realized that I'm not my body. And that's what I'd always thought up until that time, which was when I was about 25 years old. So I started looking around for, answers about reality and, who are we? And I stumbled on to the Rosicrucian a brochure that I found in a book as a bookmark, and I decided to join. And I took the courses that they offered, which this was 50 years ago. It was a correspondence course.
Right, I
And
remember it. I think I have it electronically.
I'm going to say that probably now, I'm sure it's online. Anyway, uh, and what I learned from the Rosicrucians is that really all is one, that reality is not what it appears to be on the surface, that it's really vibrations and energy, sort of what the Hindus call Maya, the illusion of reality, and that we're all connected, and that like attracts like is the basic metaphysical law that many of the other metaphysical laws come from. And so the way it influenced my business career was that I realized we're all connected. I realized that I was a part of a much larger reality, and that I created my own reality through my beliefs and through my attitudes and so forth. And so I tried to have a good positive attitude, and when you give out good things come back to you. That's part of the law of attraction. And so that's how it influenced me. I've tried to be I've always tried to deal with people with integrity. I do believe in karma, that what you give out comes back, and that's the way I've operated, and it's worked for me very well. I've been very successful. I was a successful advertising agency CEO, and partner with other people in the company, and we sold it to a big New York firm that's on the New York Stock Exchange. We made a little money, and now I'm writing books, and I love writing books. I'll also ghostwrite books. If anybody out there needs a book ghostwritten, come to my website, and get in touch with me through my contact page, and we'll talk about it. So
Now
yeah,
that begs the question naturally, how has your Rosicrucianism influenced your novel writing?
well, the first novel that I wrote uh, has some metaphysical kind of paranormal sort of things in it, but I've written two others that have a lot of that information that I learned, not just from the Rosicrucians, but also from the study of reality, study of metaphysics, and what that's telling us about reality, and what I've learned from. I had a program, what is now called a podcast. We called it a internet radio show back when I had it, 2007 to 2009, and I interviewed over 100 different people that had written books and so forth, and were trying to figure out the true nature of reality, and got a lot of information from that, which really kind of confirmed what I'd learned from the Rosicrucians. The Rosicrucians know what's going on, and I put that into two different novels. One of them is called Satan's Surrogates, and it's about a candidate for president who becomes possessed, not necessarily by Satan, but by one of his demons. And then the other book is about a woman who is trying to find out information about her father when he was young, and she ends up going out of body into mind, and is able to time travel that way. But it has a lot of metaphysical and that sort of stuff in it that
Now, you seem to summarize the metaphysical, philosophical tradition, which Amorc essentially is. You seem to reduce that to a paranormal idea. Do you find that the quote unquote paranormal is uh, a large part of your understanding?
well, I think that the everything is one life, but within that life there is duality. There is good and there's bad. There's people who are serving others and there's people who are serving themselves. And of course, since it's all coming from the same place, there's really no such thing as good or bad. Shakespeare's Hamlet said, "There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so," and that's true. But for example, in when I interviewed a psychiatrist who'd worked in a mental institution in California for 20 years, interviewed him on my podcast. He told me that he was able to speak to demons through his patients who were schizophrenic, and he could have conversations with them. And that idea is kind of what gave me the idea for the book Satan's Surrogates, and the idea that a candidate for president could be actually possessed by a demon. So it didn't necessarily come from the Rosicrucians, but the Rosicrucian idea of all is one, all is energy, all is vibrations, all is one life is certainly the underlying aspect of what I've written in many cases, including this book that we're here to talk about, A New Theory of Human Life and Existence. So there you go.
Well, in your book, you attempt to explain how life in humans came to be evolved, as well as why it happened. Can you outline this idea for us?
I'll do the best I can. Basically, there everything comes from a infinite mind, an infinite intelligence. We're all part of that. That is what reality is, and it seems to be solid, and we seem to be separate because we're spirits that are inhabiting bodies, and that makes us think that we're separate from one another, but we're really not. And the reason we're spirits occupying bodies is that the one life, the infinite mind, cannot know itself without, because it's all one. In the way it decided to know itself was to create this reality and to send out probes into it and to have them in bodies so that they could believe that they were separate and experience the creation that the one life had created. So that, in a nutshell, is what's happened here. We are eternal beings that are probes, part of, still connected to the one life, that have come into this physical reality in order to experience hardships and good things and love and
So are
turmoil.
you implying then that this reality is separate from the divine?
No, it's all one, but it is the divine is everywhere. It's all around us. It's not. It seems to be separate, but it's not separate. Everything is connected. There's
Well, I
nothing.
think as you come to know yourself, you begin to realize that you are God. You are not just God, you are the God of very God. And so am I, and so is the desk you're sitting at and the earth beneath your feet, right?
Well,
So
absolutely. That's exactly what I'm trying to tell
yeah,
you.
yeah.
And
So
Jesus said that when the Jews wanted to stone him, they said,
do you not say that ye are gods?
"Yeah, you are gods. You are
He
gods."
quoted Isaiah.
Well, it was,
It was
I think it
Isaiah.
was one of the
I
Psalms, but
looked it up.
anyway, yeah. He said, "Why do you want to stone me? For what good works do you want to stone me?" And they said, "Well, you, a man, say you are God." And he says, "Well, doesn't your law say you are gods? We're all gods.
Yes, we're all
We're
gods.
all
And that's the
probes set
central
out by God."
teaching of our church. That's when you make that connection, you tap into your own genius. I think if we explored your work, from your writings now to your professional work, back then, you'll see that that germ was always there. It could go into your childhood before you even had an idea of, what you were going to become, and then you started on a path of becoming because you kept hearing that.
Right. The urge
Yeah,
to become is the secret of life. That's what
yeah,
it's all about. It's all about evolution. And life on this planet has been evolving for the last 303.8 billion years. And we're, part of that whole thing. And yeah, absolutely. When I sit down to write, I don't always know exactly what I'm going to write, but when I get started, it's like a muse sings in my ear, and I think it's my higher self coming through and giving me the words.
that's your star, your Augiades, your holy guardian angel, your muse. you know and
Correct.
I think everyone can find that. You don't have to be an astute intellect to get there. I think that the school janitor can do it.
Yeah,
The Home Depot cashier can do it. It's how you present yourself, and then the world will find you through that.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
uh, I think that's important.
Are you familiar with Edgar Casey?
Yes, I am. As a matter of fact, my wife, when she was younger, used to live across the street from the Edgar Casey Foundation. She
Oh
spent
yeah, right there in
88 years
Virginia
in their
Beach.
library.
Virginia Beach at 68th and Atlantic Avenue. Been there many times. Well,
Well, you might have tripped over 20, 30 years ago.
yeah, the but Edgar Casey, believed all these things as well because he was in touch with the infinite mind. He called it the Akashic Records.
The
But
Sleeping Prophet.
yeah, the sleeping prophet. But he said what we need to have is an ideal as humans if we want to develop our potential to its full. We need to have an ideal of what it is that we're uh, we're pursuing, and what our gift is that we want to give to others.
Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss.
Right,
Follow that inspiration that's inside of you. Don't let the world tell you who you are.
right,
You
absolutely.
got to interact with the world. You got to compromise. I'm not going to run off and become this great artist.
Yeah, and one of the things that keeps a lot of people from being able to do that is their ego. They have an ego that was built up from the time they were born till probably about 7 or 8 years old, and it's their beliefs in there and ideas about themselves that came from their parents, came from their teachers, came from their siblings, from the society they were born into, from the church they went to as a child, all those things.
Yeah.
And those beliefs have created a personality or an ego that is really not you. It is the culture and so forth you were born into. And
You have
so,
to learn to reconstruct that ego, to hear the silent voice within.
and one of the ways that I recommend, and I have a book that I wrote called "Let Go Your Ego," and the way you do that, and what you said is true, the voice within. But when something happens that you feel compelled to react to, whether it's joy or sorrow or anger,
The knee-jerk reaction.
when the knee jerk reaction is about to happen, stop yourself. There's a moment between what had happened and when you actually do react. Stop yourself right there and say, now, why am I reacting this way? Why do I want to react this way? What belief is buried in my subconscious mind that's causing me to do that? And that,
You're exactly correct, and I think you've gotten a little too deep into it. Only that you bypass, I think, an initial understanding of that knee-jerk reaction. You have to recognize that you had it. Most
well,
people don't. You
well,
know,
but that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, you don't need, as I said, Shakespeare's Hamlet said, "There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." And so, one person is to react to whatever it is with joy, and somebody else is going to react with anger. It's not the reaction that causes it; it's what's inside you that causes the reaction.
oh yes. Now you take it to the next step. Once you realize you're having knee-jerk reactions in certain situations, then you got to go probing within. What is the unconscious, facts behind that? Your wife can turn around and say something completely innocent to you, and you blow off the other end. And really, what's going on is some childhood echo inside of you that's just come out. Had nothing to do with what your wife said. She just accidentally tapped into it with an innocent statement. And so we have these things, and the value in them is that after I get done blowing up, I turn around and say, I remember that experience as a child, and I can refile that experience with my new understanding,
Right,
as an
exactly.
adult now.
That's what you need to do. But so, yeah, I'm with you.
Well, I want to turn the table a little bit, and I want to talk about science. You seem to have a strong connection with that, and I'm going to run this by you. Aleister Crowley claims that science betrayed the white school of magic when it immersed itself exclusively in the study of the material world. Does this align in any way with your own views on the evolution of science?
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. I'd mentioned, I don't know if we talked about it yet, but one of my ancestors was one of the Salem witches. She was hanged in 1692, Susanna North Martin. I've written a book about her called A Witch in the Family, and I did a lot of research. I read all the trial transcripts. I read all the testimony. I read all about all the characters who were involved in that. And I came across an English philosopher whose name is Thomas Hobbes. He wrote the Leviathan, and he had an influence. He came out with a statement that I believe eventually led to scientific materialism. And that statement was that, and I'm paraphrasing, I can't say it in his 17th century way of talking, but what he basically said was, if God created it, then God created all that is. And so if you can't see it and touch it and feel it or see it under a microscope, it doesn't exist, which he was railing against the witchcraft trials. And he was basically saying there's no such thing as Satan. There's no such thing as ghosts. There's no such thing as specters. There's no such thing as magic. There's no such thing as any of that kind of stuff, because all that exists is material stuff that God created. And
of course, in the Leviathan, Hobbes is really attacking populist ideas. He's a very pro-government and was preaching even totalitarianism as the ideal state, the government.
Right. But anyway, this part of his philosophy I turned into later on in the next century, in the 18th century, something unfolded called deism, which, of course, is the idea that God created it. It's the clockmaker theory. He created the great clock, the universe, the great machine, and he wound it up and let it go and is no longer involved in it. And there were people like Thomas Jefferson, who were intellectuals at the time, who bought into that. And that became the age of enlightenment, or the age of reason, and the whole idea. And then...
And a lot of our founding fathers were actually deists.
Right. And then another century passes by, and you got Darwin comes out with this survival of the fittest, which allows intellectuals to get rid of God altogether. And so what you've got now taught in school is scientific materialism or physicalism, which says that all exists is the physical world, which is absolutely not true. I mean, you and I are...
Yeah, now I see contemporary physics, though, as, having a very spiritual or alchemical view of science. And I see
it does.
a reunion of science and religion.
Scientific materialism and quantum physics do not compute. They do not go together.
Well, no, not, but in modern physics, we see through materialism as they get down to subatomic particles.
That's what I'm saying, is why don't they teach the fact that that there really is no material substance? All there is energy and vibrations.
Well, that's what the Gnostic Church is all about. But these old churches that our society is run upon, this is a threat to their belief structures.
Yeah.
Like
it's a threat to the guys in college professors who are teaching that BS about materialism too.
Yeah.
That's why they keep hanging on to it.
Because the problems with our educational institutions are unbelievable. I think the academia has really lost itself and needs to find its soul again.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a whole other problem. But, well, we see a reunion of science and religion. It's there. That society isn't going to catch up with it right away is, kind of almost boringly normal. It's what society has always done.
Yeah. I've seen a lot change over the last 30 years, though, in the direction of the two coming together. I mean, one of the things I take a close look at in my new book is the double slit experiment in quantum physics, where what the researcher knows or doesn't know determines the outcome of the experiment. So how can what his thoughts stay inside his skull if they influence the outcome of the experiment that's outside of him? And it's because we're all part of the same mind, one mind.
Well, and then of course, you're dealing with the collapse of the wave field. The wave field is there until you want to see a particle.
Right.
And if you want to see the wave field, you can.
Yeah. Well, if you don't measure it and don't know, it'll be waves. If you do measure it, then you'll get the particles that
Well,
hit
yeah,
where they're.
and I mean, we could go for probably hours on the metaphysical speculation that that brings up for us, and it's absolutely wild. I think though that um, materialist science has given us benefits. It's just that the whole of science walked away into materialism. Um, Let me ask you, what is natural knowledge?
Natural knowledge.
Yeah.
Natural knowledge is knowing that everything that is alive is conscious, or even things that aren't alive are conscious at a very low level. But it all comes from consciousness. We exist within this field of consciousness that
You
is the
just
ground
gave
of
a
being and
summary
all that
of
it
the
is.
introduction to our Rosicrucian Mass. It's our monthly service, by the way.
Good.
Actually, we read it in the four yods. Forgive me. We read it in the four yods. One of the yods is that, consciousness, all matter is alive, everything.
Yeah, everything is alive.
Yeah, you know. Um, I think what I'd really like to hear from you is that you state you believe the greater the number of those who know, and what and who humans actually are, um, that would create. Are you suggesting some kind of utopia, an earthly utopia, or just a
Well,
nicer place to live?
utopia. I don't know that I go that far, but if people realize that they are spiritual beings having a physical experience, that they are eternal, that we're all one, that we all come from the same source, that we are all going to return to the same source, then I think we would probably treat each other a lot better than we do on average. And that's why I think the world would be a better place if everybody came to that realization.
What about the idea that we live in a world of contending forces?
Well, there is, it is a dualistic society. And, if we're going to get into uh, moving into the new age, into the age of Aquarius, or the fifth dimension, or fourth density, or whatever you want to call it, uh, we need to make a choice. Are we going to be service to self or service to others? And if we're going to be service to self, we could stick around in this reality. If we're going to be service to others, we're going to have to incarnate on another planet somewhere next time. How
Well,
about
is this in your view, this world then is a bad place to be?
no, I'd like this world just fine. It's difficult, uh, uh, navigating this world is not an easy task, but it's a lot
But
better
I think you're living proof of somebody who's more than navigated the world. You found a way to flourish in the world.
yeah.
Isn't this the ideal place to be?
Well, it's a good place, but there are, even billionaires have problems, and I'm not a billionaire, but that look what that poor guy who killed his parents recently. I mean, he had everything going for him.
Well, when you have power over others, you become the slave of all. So billionaires sure have their problems. The grass isn't greener on the other side of the fence.
Right.
You know, I have no envy for anyone's wealth or success. I have respect for it. I think it's inspirational to each, uh, in their own way. I'm tempted to say in their own field, but sure, in their own discipline, their own field of endeavor, whatever that might be. You know, certainly, your early approaches to creativity, even brought you into advertising because it's all about creativity. It's a
Oh
whole
yeah.
deal. So,
Well,
I'd love to tell you the story of my working for Burson Marsteller sometime. But
Burson Marsteller. Oh yeah, the PR firm, big PR
yeah,
firm.
Yep. Very funny story. But anyway, um, you also urge people to read your book and spread the word about your book. Do you see the book as prophetic?
I do. I think that if people read this book and take it seriously, that they're going to be better people, and they're going to and so anybody, that's why I say spread the word, because you are part of this one life that we're all part of, and you do have talents, and you made some sort of a contract with before you came here to accomplish certain things. And as you said, Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. And that's great advice, because that means you're going to put whatever talent you have to work. And when you're doing that, particularly when you're using that talent to help others, then you're going to have a good life. You may not become a billionaire, but you're going to have satisfaction and a sense of fulfillment. And that's what creates a good life, in my opinion. As long as you got a roof over your head and food on the table, and you're doing what you like to do, and it's helping others, then you are a successful human being.
Becoming fully human.
Yeah.
Mhm. What a great way to close up, because that's just a wonderful summary of um, what you have to say, I think. Thanks for a great discussion, Stephen. I really appreciate it. We'll include links uh, to the description of the program. We'll include a couple of your links. But if you would, just leave us with a summary of your work and maybe what's in the works for you in the near future.
Well, I've written 5 novels and a bunch of metaphysical books, and I've written 6 business management titles. But I really feel like this book, this A New Theory of Human Life and Existence, is kind of my magnum opus, because it really lays out in I think, a pretty logical way what I've learned over 50 years of studying and trying to figure out the true nature of reality and who we humans are and why we're here. And it brings in to that what I've learned from the over 100 people I talked to in my podcast, which was called "The Truth About Life," and that can really help a lot of people live a better life. And so I do encourage you to read it and to tell others about it, and maybe, you know, give your copy to
Stephen,
them
just
too.
like thanks. I think we should do another show just on the idea of the Rosicrucian novel and how that, as you summarize it, as a body of work, reveals the inner workings of your own soul.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we'll leave that as a teaser. Maybe we'll get you back, because I really really did enjoy myself. A wonderful program here, and I'll say good night to our congregation, and we'll see you soon.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier to have you.